These are the words Reverend Chapek used to bless the flowers for his flower ceremony. He would say a prayer he wrote for this purpose, and we use those words today to bless the flowers this morning. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Having celebrated the flower communion ceremony, we pray again this morning with more words from Reverend Chapek. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the tree, and in the hearts of people the longing to live in love, in the name of the highest, in whom we move and who makes the mother and father and brother and sister what they are, in the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of peace, let us renew our resolution, sincerely, to be real brothers and sisters regardless of any kind of bar which estranges us one from another. In this holy resolution may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us, and may we endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Our reading today is also by Reverend Chapek. Something to think about. There is in every soul a thirst for something that is higher and greater than all science and art. We call it by different names, but in essence it is nothing other than a hidden cry for harmony with the infinite. Strong is the person who is conscious of the fact that the divine seed in them wants to manifest of the possibilities the great prophets and geniuses of mankind have brought. So the flower communion ceremony of Reverend Dr. Norbert Chapek calls our attention to the simple beauty in living things, the flowers in their glory and the colors that return in spring. It's easy for a ritual such as our flower ceremony, the flower communion, to become mere routine, to lose the moments of attention and awareness that turn regularly repeated intentional action from something that connects us to our soul, our spirit, and each other, and the natural world, to something that we sort of sleepwalk through, hardly noticing the details anymore, oblivious to its specialness, regularly forgetting year to year to even bring a flower to church. You can tell when a flower ceremony has become routine in a congregation. No one anticipates, no one remembers to bring flowers, and having received a flower, many people leave it in the car to dry and fade in the sun, or just throw it away when they get home. Some don't even take it with them when they leave church. I've seen them on tables and in the trash at the end of coffee hour. Virtually every year I've done one of these ceremonies. It's sad to a preacher. It hurts our soul when ritual gets lost. But beauty tends to get forgotten in our day-to-day, just as these flowers and its ritual tend to be forgotten. And we lose something in this. We lose an opportunity to see life as more than our problems and challenges, and the world as more than conflict and unrest. We lose opportunity to remind ourselves that we are beautiful. We lose opportunities for gratitude. Beauty itself might seem like an odd theological and spiritual theme at first, but it is an important one. From the daily news to our own self-image, I think ugliness can all too easily dominate our outer and inner landscape. Because of this, I have been especially aware of noticing beauty in the last few weeks as I thought about constructing sermons and newsletter articles and things to share with people to take home with them for this month, for spiritual resources, for our monthly theme of beauty. So I want to share with you some of the flowering moments I remembered over a very special Memorial Day weekend, things I noticed that were moments of beauty, flowers of beauty and a bouquet of beauty that is always there if we learn to pay attention and remember to pay attention. So over that holiday weekend, I had a few times when life is beautiful, the world is beautiful, and you forget about everything else for a few minutes and just live inside the experience of that activity, that view, that artwork, the company you're in. Your heart just revels in the everything is okayness you suddenly feel. Snapshot. Saturday afternoon, May 25th. My almost 5-year-old nephew riding his scooter in his parents' driveway. As things cooked on the grill and friends and family sat around the table, my nephew mastered the art of riding his scooter. You know, one of those little scooters, the 2 wheels, and you step on the back wheel and slow it down and stop it, that have become very popular. He's had it for a year, finally mastered it that weekend, that day. Some of the older children present showed him how, and after a few off-balance attempts, he got the hang of it and spent the next 2+ hours pushing himself along the length of the driveway. It was everything being a child could be wrapped up in one moment. Mastering a skill, having fun, being the center of attention, even laughing when he went a bit too fast and crashed into my sister-in-law. In an instant, I saw my own childhood, flash before my eyes, and seemingly all at once felt the wind of every time I rode a bike as a kid, smelled every scent of grass from backyard to Little League field, tasted every burger and hot dog I had growing up. Being alive was a child on a scooter in the summer, safe and carefree, surrounded by love and family and their memories of being that kid. Beautiful. Snapshot. Sunday evening, May 26th. I went for a walk along Quincy Shore Drive, all the way down to Wollaston Beach and back. The salty smell of sea breeze, no matter where I've encountered it, has always stopped me in my tracks, emotionally, if not physically. I inhaled deeply as if the salt air could fill me up and I would float away like a balloon, up and away. The soft, light clouds seemed to form a wall at the horizon line. And all the people around me, rollerblading, sunbathing, fishing, playing music at top volume from the car stereo, lining up into the street at Tony's Clam Shack, all melded into one feeling that forms a perfect summer day at the beach. All at once, I'm encapsulated in an emotional and sensory cocoon of every boardwalk, every sunburn, every fried clam, every body surfing ride, every boat ride, every sandcastle I've ever experienced, all at once and together, as I inhaled the salt air and took step after step. Beautiful. Snapshot. Monday afternoon, May 27th. I'm driving along a narrow and winding New England back road on the way to a cookout. The car windows are open. Bruce Springsteen is playing on the car stereo. It's me, of course, Bruce Springsteen is playing on the car stereo. I have food to share in a cooler in the back seat. Overhead, the trees on the side of the road make a covered bridge with the leaves on outstretched branches. Sunlight streams through the cracks in the roof, casting a pattern of sunbeams and shadow across stone walls, wooden rail fences, front porches, gardens, and the front walls of houses built before America was born. I remember how my father taught me that all leaves are not green. And I see once again he was right. And I take in the yellows and the lime and the blue-green and the gray-green and the green-yellow as they sway in the breeze on the side of the road and over my head. The sky is blue when it peeks through the canopy. Every so often I pass a barn or a horse or a Memorial Day American flag, and I am almost sad this drive won't go on for hours. Beautiful. There is indeed much ugliness in the world, but we are also constantly surrounded by beauty. It's a strange dichotomy, isn't it? May we notice the beauty more often. May we remember, like the flowers, to be its ambassadors. May we remember that every beautiful moment is a flower in the bouquet of beauty we can find in the world. That every person we encounter is a flower of beauty in the bouquet of humanity. I love that Reverend Chapek's flower ceremony reminds us each year to literally stop and smell the flowers. Not only does it give us a chance to reclaim beauty, but to reclaim why Unitarian Universalism calls us to do so. Those who lose sight of beauty and joy often also lose sight of justice and fairness. Reverend Chapek is an example of faith and courage you and I will most likely never be asked to call forth. We cling to our Unitarian Universalism as a spiritual refuge, a safe house in what can sometimes be a religiously unfriendly atmosphere. But how oppressed are we really? Think of that Prague congregation Unitaria. Think, would I come to church knowing the Nazis are watching who goes? Would I go to church knowing that there might be German officers or soldiers sitting in the back row or at the door? The oppression got worse in Czechoslovakia on October 28, 1939, after a violent protest against German occupation. Unitarian services were routinely held under surveillance. In June 1940, Reverend Chapek turned 70, and the congregation gave him a shortwave radio as a present. The radio came with the mandatory tag from the German authorities saying that listening to and/or relaying information from foreign radio broadcasts carried the penalty of death. Chapek listened and relayed anyway. Of course he did. Chapek was first brought in for questioning in October 1940. He was released. He wasn't so lucky the second time. The Gestapo raided his home on the morning of March 28, 1941, and spent hours tearing the place apart, confiscating sermons, writings, letters, books, and other belongings. It is said Chapek served the officer in charge coffee, refusing to be intimidated or denigrated. Reverend Chapek and his youngest daughter, Zora, were both arrested, charged with listening to foreign radio broadcasts. Chapek was sent to the concentration camp at Dachau on July 5, 1941, where he was issued prisoner number 30323. Reverend Chapek was sent to Hartheim Castle near Linz, Austria on October 12, 1942, where he was sent to the gas chamber. Of all the stories of all the famous Unitarian Universalists we tell, I really love Reverend Dr. Norbert Chapek. If we had saints in Unitarian Universalism officially, he would certainly be one of mine. A former Catholic who became a Baptist and then a Unitarian, he looked until he found a religion broad enough for his own spirit and his own ideas. And then he spent a lifetime making a religious home for others who needed one. And finally, when called to stand on principle that there is no such thing as a lesser person, he stood and looked the Nazis in the eye, offered them coffee, and said no to their evil. He had the chance to escape to America, and he remained separated from his wife, remaining with his congregation, living under the type of situation you and I know only from history books and movies and family stories of horror. Although now, in the last few years, I think we can start to imagine how that situation starts to come to be. And I think his story of seeing beauty, blessing it, seeing it in each other and fighting for it becomes all that much more pertinent. I am a Unitarian Universalist in no small part because of other Unitarian Universalists like Reverend Chapek. And I want you to know that story today, his story, because this ceremony of the flowers is a ritual that sometimes becomes routine and loses the specialness of its history, which takes away from it the beauty it has as part of the bouquet that makes our faith grand and encompassing, fulfilling, inspiring, and uplifting. Remember Dr. Chapek as the type of person each of us is called by this faith tradition called Unitarian Universalism to be. His vision and theology is summed up well in the flower communion ritual. We are all uniquely equal flowers. There never has been, nor is there now, nor will there ever be again anyone just exactly like you or me. Each of us is a singularity of beauty, a sacred treasure of uniqueness, and all we have to offer is as equally beautiful and unique. We are all equal in what makes us fundamentally human and all unique in what makes us fundamentally us. We all share the same human condition, the same strengths and weaknesses. The single flower is lovely, but the bouquet is astonishingly beautiful and grand. Flowers, be they in the garden or in a bouquet or in a single solitary presence in a vase by itself, are gloriously beautiful. One is beautiful, more geometrically more beautiful, astoundingly more beautiful. A rose garden, a bouquet of roses. More extraordinary still is the garden, a bouquet of mixed flowers, or the wildflower bouquet on the side of the road. There is always a force in the world that seems it doesn't like the mixing of the flowers, that insists on uniformity and that each individual group of a certain kind of flower must be by itself or be better than another. But our flower ceremony says, no, that's not the case. Each flower has its singular beauty and its singular importance. Sometimes it's hard to see the force that is striving against beauty and joy because it's so easy for us to fall prey to petty jealousies and discrimination and anger and the other things that drive us apart. People ask how? How could Hitler have come to power? How could so many people have gone along with such injustice? And over the last couple years, is it really that hard to imagine? For what happened then, and is in danger maybe of happening now, happens with the children in schoolyards, and adults in clubs and groups every day. It happens whenever an us is created against a them, instead of remembering there's only we, instead of remembering that everyone is welcome to be part of the bouquet. When people feel intimidated about speaking up for what is right, even in a small group, in any situation, in an office, in a classroom, on a playground, us rules the day. But they are wrong, inferior, stupid, weak. Woe to anyone who dare stands against us. But there is only we, and this is what makes people like Reverend Dr. Norbert Chapek so admirable to me. He was by no means perfect and had his critics. His original language is very binary. He uses men and women and brothers and sisters. He always calls God he. You can find a fault in any one of us. That's part of what makes us unique and part of what also makes us fundamentally like each other. We're not perfect. And yet he had an ability to live out what most of us only talk about as our values. His ability to live out the practices described in the famous poem by Edwin Markham. He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout, but love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. This is the type of real religious work the hard religious work we need to do. Who among us has not also been left out, shut out, excluded, especially religiously or spiritually, if not in other ways? Who among us hasn't been told, you don't belong in the bouquet, your flower doesn't go with this arrangement? That feeling can make anyone wither and die. That feeling produces hurt and resentment that can last a lifetime. But the turning point is when we turn and take our lives and use them as a marker and a vehicle for drawing others into a broader circle, gathering the other uniquely equal flowers around us to be with us, to be we. And then maybe we get to no more war, no pain, no prejudice, no hate. Draw the circle and include even the people who would leave us out of theirs. That's the work Reverend Chapek would have asked us to do. Not because others may have been wrong in their arrogance or ignorance or hate, but just because they are people, to bring them in. I can feel safe saying Reverend Chapek would not have given the Nazis a free pass for their crimes, rather continuing to focus on the kindness we have to practice to remain who we are. To fight hate with hate never works. Reverend Chapek's flower ceremony is a ritual bringing to life what Unitarian Universalism still holds out to the world, that with sun and care, we can all flower and bloom and create not just a beautiful bouquet together, but a beautiful world together.